Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Leader of Majority, Edan Duale, Chair of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament, Samuel Chepkonga, members of Parliament present, my colleagues and editors, as well as journalists who are present here. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this tradition that you have started, because I think this is the third time actually we are engaging. The first time having happened here, the second time we went to Parliament, and this time we're back at the Intercontinental. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, Mr. Speaker, on the role of Parliament in the electoral laws reform. And while we talk about laws, Mr. Speaker, a man revered to date as the genius of the art of politics once said, and I quote, "For as good habits of the people require good laws to support them, so laws to be observed need good habits on the part of the people." Mr. Speaker, this quote is very easily about Kenyans at all levels, leaders to the ordinary mwananchi on the street. We speak obsessively about the Constitution that we do not read and laws that we do not observe. And while at it, habits that we've never bothered to assess. In Kenya's epic battle between laws and habits, our country sometimes looks and sounds a bit like an amusement park. And the battle, in my opinion, is essentially between good laws and bad habits. The episodes are many and very often tragically comical. When it's not a crook dressing up as a priest to commit a crime, it is a Supreme Court judge or two going to court to challenge and, I suppose, change their ages. These are habits. In a world where not many are keen on growing old, this case, Mr. Speaker, must generate a lot of interest. Talking of growing old, Mr. Speaker, we recently celebrated our 53rd anniversary as a self-governing nation. Mr. Speaker, you recall we did this in a peculiar way, a uniquely Kenyan way. For us in the media, Madaraka Day tested our skills to the limit, for we had two different audiences to serve, fairly, objectively, and impartially, as the cardinal rules of professional, disinterested journalism requires. On television, we had to give viewers a split screen, consisting of the official celebrations in Afraha Stadium, Nakuru, on one side, and the CORD rally in Uhuru Park on the other. The next day, Mr. Speaker, newspaper editors faced the same dilemma, splitting the front page newspaper to accommodate equally the two rival events. Mr. Speaker, anniversaries are about reflections, and at 53 years of self-rule, events of the last few weeks must send us countrymen into some deep, collective, soul-searching. We must boldly assess our country's body and soul, from political leadership to the public service, the police to the judiciary, religious groups to civil societies, education sector, and even the media. Everywhere we turn, one pertinent question begs, as Donald Trump would ask, what the hell is going on? Mr. Speaker, I recently sat down with a senior citizen of this country who took me down memory lane of the first 2 decades of our independence. I left the meeting heavy-hearted because here was an old man who, blow by blow, painted a picture of a better country of days gone by. He showed me faded pictures of the first parliament and black and white pictures of President Jomo Kenyatta's early cabinets, and told me about an efficient public bus service in Nairobi and upcountry, a train service to Nyahururu and Nanyuki, tarmac roads, and effective law and order agencies that either prevented, investigated, or punished crime. When I asked the old man to compare life then and now, Mr. Speaker, he uttered an epithet and he spat, missing my shoe very narrowly. Across the political divide, Mr. Speaker, Kenya today finds itself stuck deep in an unavoidable leadership crisis. Between government and the opposition, a perilous deficiency is repeatedly pushing the country to the brink and mockingly away from it and then back again. Yesterday, a fifth life was lost needlessly in what is essentially an egotistic contest between two sides whose value for human life must now be called to open question. Mr. Speaker, a few days ago, during the World Press Freedom Day, I observed that the country is divided into two halves, and every aspect of public life sadly reflects that divide. In our polarized nation, it's been a consistent black or white affair of Jubilee versus CORD, Uhuru Kenyatta versus Raila Odinga, and increasingly, this tribe versus that tribe, or this block of tribes versus that block of tribes. I observe sadly, Mr. Speaker, that even the civil society, once the bastion of our nationalism and the quest for common good, has not been able to resist the temptation to join camps. A human rights group is actually currently smarting from a bizarre move by its leader to literally switch sides, condemning demonstrators and not the police for infringing on constitutional rights to picketing and assembly. Mr. Speaker, should you want to confirm more or any of the big divide that I'm talking about, just log onto any social media platform, particularly Facebook and Twitter, and witness for yourself the depth of the divide, the bitterness of the fight, and the intensity of ethnic animosity among Kenyans of either side of the divide. The contest over the future of the IEBC is an excuse. It has provided a new platform upon which these divisions are showcased. It is, however, the lack of clarity in the conversation around the IEBC that should worry the remaining sober Kenyans. What exactly does the opposition CORD want? And what is Jubilee defending? None of them has been eloquent enough or sufficiently clear. All we know now is that the IEBC is caught between the condemnation of an opposition that is largely clueless on an alternative and the support of a government that is apparently shielding it from credibility questions. Morally, Mr. Speaker, this constitutes that tight, cold, proverbial space between a rock and a hard place from which the leadership of the IEBC must make its own tough choices. Mr. Speaker, depending on where one stands, there must have been a section of Kenyans that felt relieved when they saw those now infamous handshakes at the State House on Tuesday last week. But it turned out the moment was a false promise with rigorous denials almost suggesting the moment never happened. Mr. Speaker, this once again leaves you as the man on the spot. As the leader of an institution that is expected to solve many of Kenya's legislative puzzles, all eyes expectantly turn your way. With 150 members of parliament having signed up to resolve the question of IEBC, there is reason for Kenyans to give the National Assembly a try on this one. I also note the publication of the IEBC Amendment Bill 2016, as well as the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2016 by my friend Samuel Chepkonga here. The signatures and the publication of the bills are an encouraging pointer towards an alternate route to some of these questions. Mr. Speaker, millions of eyes will shortly be trained on these parliamentary initiatives with hopes that both sides of our nation's deep political divide shall draw civil satisfaction. Of importance here, Mr. Speaker, will be the role of your leadership in shepherding the House down the path of bigger, bipartisan, national, and ultimately all-inclusive causes. Mr. Speaker, I obviously restrained myself this morning, you being our host, and I promise to hold back, except to urge you to have the courage to rise above the din of partisan parochial interests and be for the House Majority Party Jubilee what Kenneth Marende was for the House Majority Party ODM, a voice of reason, promoter of moderate voices, defender of sobriety, and ultimately the judicious and impartial bearer of the Solomonic sword. This, I must repeat, Mr. Speaker, requires courage. If all fails, Mr. Speaker, commit yourself never to fall in the same pit a second time. Let not brawn and brawl, but debate and discourse be the way of conducting business in your House, and lead Parliament too with civility. Live to his maxim of let the majority have their way and the minority have their say. Talking of majorities and minorities, I acknowledge the presence of the majority leader and friend, Edan Duale. I salute you for your endeavors of the last 4 years and encourage you to push in the path of whipping the House into passing legislation that actualize the remaining bits of our Constitution. You succeeded in some, delayed in some, and failed in others entirely, like the contentious one-third gender rule. Mr. Speaker, I do encourage the majority leader to join you in working hard to secure the legacy of the 11th Parliament. Few would envy that task. In our last engagement, I made my observations about this House, and regrettably, the observations remain intact more than a year down the line. This Parliament, the largest since our independence, has the least distinguished debaters ever. I said, Mr. Speaker, Martin Shikuku, Jean-Marie Seroney, and even George Anunyona would die again within hours of resurrection if they found themselves in this House. Paul Mwite, Martha Karua, Muhisa Kitui, and others would hardly fit into the current setup. And Mr. Speaker, this is the only Parliament ever where more than 2/3 of its members have to introduce themselves. Hello, mimi ni mheshimiwa. We used to know MPs because of what they had to do in Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the 11th Parliament may, however, take the consolation, if I can call it, that it's not the only institution that is in decline in recent years. As a country, we must reflect and ask simple questions. Why, after all these years, would Uganda and Rwanda opt for Tanzania as their route to the Indian Ocean? And why on earth would Sudan lecture us about our tea, which they must import anyway? Mr. Speaker, I can sense at this point that I may be sounding progressively negative, but I'm afraid it must be stated sometimes as it is, for this is the true state of our nation. As editors and journalists, we interact closely with you and many other sectors of our society every day. We are witnesses of our country's journey, and our fingers are always firmly on the pulse of our nation. As citizens, our emotions as media practitioners are permanently on a roller coaster. In good times, we celebrate with our countrymen in the athletics tracks of Birmingham and Beijing, and rugby fields of Australia and Las Vegas. In sad times, we mourn with our fellow countrymen in Huruma and Garissa, Westgate and Turbi. And all the times, we strive to be the effective link between the governed and those who govern, and between the elected representatives, yourselves, of both houses of parliament, and the electors in their counties and constituencies. Mr. Speaker, in our interlinked space in the service of Kenyans, we are all together bound by one unbreakable bond: our commitment and love for our country, our flag, and our people. Mr. Speaker, in the time-honored tradition and language of your House, I beg to move.